We are in section 10.8. 10.8 is the last section for chapter 10. There will be a quiz on Friday. The quiz will cover 10.5 through 10.8 and that one section in chapter 13, 13.6. So let's learn the theorems from 10.8. The first theorem states that if two chords of a circle intersect inside the circle, then the product of the measures of the segments of one chord is equal to the product of the measures of the segments of the other chord. So both of these are segments. All right, let's draw a figure so you understand this a little bit better. So we have V drawn to N, that's our first chord, and then we have L drawn to S, and we'll say they intersect at E. So we have two chords that intersect inside the circle there, and we could put the center of the circle here. They're not crossing, it's a little off, but they're not intersecting at the center. They're just, and they could, but they don't have to. All right, so the product of their segments of the chord, so VE times EN is equal to the product of the segments of the other chord. So that would be LE times ES. Okay. So for an example, you could do like 6 times 6, and this would be 9 and 4. 6 times 6 is 36, 9 and 4 is 36. So that would work out. All right, moving on. If a tangent segment and a secant segment are drawn from an external point to, so an external point to the circle, so let's put an external point right here, we'll label it P. So that'll be a line that's tangent. If a tangent segment and a secant segment, so now let's draw a secant segment. All right. Are drawn from an external point of the circle, then the square of the measure of the tangent segment is equal to the product of the measures of the entire secant segment and its external part. So let's put some letters. Let's say this is Q, this is R, we'll put T here. So the tangent squared is equal to the entire secant, which would be PR, times the external part of the secant, which would be PQ. All right, so if I wanted to make up some numbers here, this would be, let's say 6. So if we had 6 squared, that's 36. Okay, that would be equal to, we'll say that this part would be, well, we'll make this, if we made this 4, then we have to make the inside 5, because the entire piece would be 9, and then that external piece would be 4. So that would be 36 as well. Okay. Theorem 97 states that if two secant segments are drawn from an external point, so let's put an external point of P, and we have two secant segments. Okay, it's not very straight. Let's make this a little bit straighter. Okay, so if two secant segments are drawn from an external point to a circle, then the product of the measures of one secant segment and its external part is equal to the product of the measure of the other secant segment and its external part. All right, so let's make some sense. Let's do A, B, C, and then D. So the product of the measures of one secant segment and its external part. So secant segment would be PB and the external part would be PA is equal to the product of the measure of the other secant segment, which would be PD, and its external part, which is PC. All right, let's get some numbers here. So for example 1, we want to find x. Well, the rule is from theorem 95 that we can multiply 3 times x, and that's equal to 6 times 2. So 3x is equal to 12, therefore x is equal to 4. For example 2, we have a tangent and a secant. So remember, the tangent squared is equal to the entire secant, which would be 18 times its external part of 2. So y squared is equal to 36, and then in algebra we would say it's plus or minus 6, but we can't have this be a negative 6, so it's just going to be positive 6. All right, now we want to find z. All right, well, let's first make this x. And the rule when we have a secant, two secants, is that the entire secant, so we'll do 3 plus x times its external part, so that would be 3, is equal to the other entire secant, which would be 4 plus 8, 12, times the external part of 4. Okay, so let's distribute this 3. We have 9 plus 3x is equal to 48. Subtract your 9, and you get 3x is equal to 39. Divide by 3, and we get x is equal to 13. So if this is 13, this portion from here to here, then z would be 13 plus 3, which equals 16. Perfect. All right, for example 4, it says tangent segment PT. So let's draw a tangent. We'll put P out here and put T here. So tangent segment PT measures 8 centimeters. The radius of a circle is 6 centimeters. Find the distance from P to the circle. So let's draw from P to the circle. First of all, I should draw that better. It's going to be the closest distance. So we want to go straight to the circle, and then fabulous. So if this is the center of the circle, well, my radius is 6. So if this is 6 centimeters and this is 6 centimeters, I need to find x here. Okay, well, the diameter is 12, and let's use our rule. So the tangent squared, 8 squared, is equal to the entire secant, which would be x plus 12, times the external part, which would just be x. So when we distribute this, well, let's square 8, which is 64, equals, and then distribute the x squared plus 12x. So now let's subtract 64 to make it equal to 0. So we have 0 is equal to x squared plus 12x minus 64. And then this can be factored. So when you think about this, what two numbers multiply together to give you negative 64 and add together to give you 12? And the answer is 4, and it would be actually subtracting 4. So you'd want to minus 4 and add 16. So this is x is equal to 4, and this is x is equal to negative 16. This is x right here. We cannot have negative 16, so the only answer is 4. And they are asking us to find the distance from P to the circle, which would be 4 centimeters. Okay, for the next page, it's just talking about the theorems. So what I would like you to do is I want you to pause the video and answer, let's just answer this first page, unpause and check your answers. So answer 1 through 4 on your own, and then unpause it and see if you got them right. Okay, for number 1, you should have gotten Roman numeral 1. Number 2 is 3. Number 3 is 2. And number 4 would be 4. All right, for the last page of our notes, I want you to do the same thing again. Pause the video and answers 5 through 8. When you're done, unpause it and check your answers. For the last page of your notes, 5, 6, and 7 are all option 2. And for number 8, it's option 3. This concludes your notes for section 10A.